Hi YouTube, this is Angie the Anti-Theist. I get asked pretty often about basically the extremist question. Did I try moderate religion? My religion was just not real Christianity, and if I'd been in real Christianity, I'd feel differently, and that might all be true, but let's talk about what's real Christianity. See, because my family, we read the Bible every day. We took it seriously every day. We prayed before every meal and almost every action. We read Focus on the Family, and I had a Brio Teen Girl subscription. I don't see where that wasn't a real Christian. I mean, I wasn't allowed to listen to secular music. I didn't hear the radio until 1995. We were restricted in our televiewing choices, which, you might just say that that's legalism, or you might say that, it says in Mark, think on these things which are holy and pure and good and blah, blah, blah. I'm totally paraphrasing. But then again, so are all the Bibles, because they're copies of copies of copies of translations of copies of copies of copies. We don't have originals. We don't have autographed copies. We don't actually know who wrote the Bible. Not all parts of it. A lot of it is, up for debate. And anyway, the time, I thought the Bible was the Word of God. So did my family. We thought that because that's a common thought that gets promoted across society, and that alone didn't make us look crazy or weird, which I kind of wish it had. So we followed the Bible. We called ourselves Christians. We just called ourselves non-denominational Christians. Homeschooled, went to church. We went to normal churches during the cult years. It wasn't just the cult. We also, went to Sunday school and all the rest. Thing was, the regular church, the not a cult church, was promoting all the same ideas that the cult just took to an extreme. That's a lot of my problem with moderate religion, is that it provides a veneer of respectability. It pretends like holy texts are actually holy, like the advice in the Bible isn't horrifically bad. The thing is, mainstream, normal American Christians do take their kids to a doctor. They do, put their faith in man. They don't actually expect God to heal them. I mean, maybe they go to, a healing mass if they're Catholic, or if they're, very severely ill, they might even go to Lourdes. Because faith healing isn't a completely out there concept. God promises, in the Bible, to heal people, both in the Old and New Testament. In the New Testament, Jesus is running around saying, you too can heal people, just pray in my name. What do you think we were doing? I mean, this 9-year-old girl with diabetes, Newman, who just, her dad just got, sentenced for, he got convicted for killing her because they prayed instead of getting her medical care. And that's horrible. And it's so easy for those of us who accept medicine and modern science and secularism to say how horrible that is. And I'm including the average Christian when I say that, because of course the average Christian doesn't do those things. The average Christian doesn't really have faith in God. I mean, let me just list a few things that we did differently. Like, we didn't lock our doors because we put our faith in God, not in man-made things of this world. We didn't go to doctors because we didn't want to put a doctor in our life before God. Also, it was apparently a sin to have a man see you who wasn't your husband. And since I didn't have one of those, I couldn't go to a doctor. It didn't occur to my grandmother that there were female doctors. We didn't go to doctors. We didn't go to the dentist. We didn't do a lot of things, which set up a sort of attitude of neglect, that doing nothing, because that's all prayer really is doing nothing, that was the perfect approach to all medical problems, which is, how I ended up with several cavities from going to a dentist 3 times my entire childhood. And I lost my glasses in 6th grade, and my mom just never took me again to get new ones because I lost them. I think if she'd, taken us to a doctor, for well visits or checkups or things like that, that would have been better. I know I certainly wouldn't have spent my entire 3 years of high school walking with a cane because I had a dislocated hip, and my family decided that that just meant that God was dealing with me about something. That's why he wouldn't heal me. Faith healing is victim blaming, it's stupid, it's dangerous, and it should never be legal to use on children. Right now, 36 states in the U.S. have religious exemptions on the Child Abuse Prevention and Treatment Act definition of medical neglect. So in other words, if you or I or somebody else who, for whatever reason, poverty or lack of interest or, being high or for whatever reason, somebody medically neglects their child, they go to jail, they get in trouble, they get their kid taken from them, something happens to fix that situation. Unless, of course, it's the parent's sincere religious beliefs that doing nothing is good for the kid, or that praying, which has had no provable, no discernible effect on the outcome of illness. The idea that, oh, well, if you believe in it, then it's okay, it's just despicable. The reality of medicine or of biology or those things don't get affected by prayer. What religion your parents follow shouldn't determine whether or not you have access to medical care if you need it as a child. It was wrong that I had to walk on a cane for 3 years. I hurt all the damn time. It sucked. And I was still a hardcore Christian at the time, so I just thought God was mad at me and that there was, that God had decided it was okay for me to walk with a limp. You know what? I saw a fucking doctor, went to a physical therapist for a few months. I can walk. I thought Jesus was supposed to heal the lame. I thought God was supposed to do this. It's not crazy if you believe the Bible to actually believe the Bible. It's much less intellectually honest to claim you believe the Bible, but then throw all of it out and actually use modern medicine and science and the real government and all those things my family rejected because we were all being fucking serious about our faith. I get really pissed off when Sunday Christians want to tell me that there was something weird about my family actually thinking God was going to do everything in that book of his. Get bent. Faith healing makes sense if the story's true. If the Bible is true, if God can really perform all those miracles, if God promised we'd be able to do these things, then fundamentalism makes more sense. Faith healing works. Why not drink poison and take up rattlesnakes? It bothers me when we act like the religious fundamentalists are the only crazy ones or the only problem. Because, of course, being a religious moderate means saying that, well, of course, the stories aren't actually true, except the ones that are. And since there's no coding system, I'm just making this up on what makes me more comfortable and what, modern resources I want to have available to my family. I paid the price of my faith. I saw families. Boy I used to babysit when I was 14 died of medical neglect. He was 2 and he got stung by a bunch of yellow jackets. And his parents didn't take him to the hospital and I know they loved him. I knew them. They loved their kid. They were protective of their kid. But because their religious beliefs were so crazed, because they thought God was going to do something, that God would actually stop a 2-year-old from dying. I know. How crazy of them to believe that of a loving God, right? So ridiculous. They're completely the only ones at fault, right? Bullshit, okay? My grandmother, who supported the teachings of faith healing, is obviously responsible. Parents who didn't take their kid to the hospital, they're responsible too. But a culture that says that faith is a virtue and not a vice, that culture is also responsible. Everybody on YouTube, have a great and godless day. Take care.